All right. Today we're going to be doing a high skin taper. This is probably one of the highest skin tapers I do on anybody. This is my boy Fernando. Shout out to Fernando for coming through for the video. For him, we're going to be starting off taking everything down with the number 4. Make sure everything is nice and even. And then we're going to start our guideline right at the very bottom of the vertical bar and match it up to the top part of his ear. And we're gonna start erasing everything out right there, and we'll make sure we go in with our shavers and take everything out. Those are the FX3 shavers. And then we're gonna start our first guideline. This is the clipper all the way open. We're gonna start it still the bottom of that blade on the right side. It's gonna be touching the top part of his ear, and all we're doing is raising it at an angle, starting by the vertical bar. So check it out. I start there right on top of the ear, and then I work my way up, kind of like you're making an acute angle. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't that mathematical, but that's about as easy as I can get it. Then we're gonna come in with our trimmers after we blend everything out, and then we're just gonna hit up the little spot we couldn't get out with the trimmer at the beginning and the shavers. Notice at first with the clipper, what I did was I blended everything out. I started with the lever all the way open, and then I close it. Or actually here I'm going to start closing it. So yeah, so right here I'll just start closing it. So I dropped it down. I'm going notch by notch right here, and it doesn't really matter because either way I'm going to go back in and start blending out. So right here I'm with the half guard on the Babyliss Low Pros. This is the 0.5 guard, whatever you guys call it. Do the same thing, another acute angle from the top of that part of the ear, and just kind of raise it on the left side when I get to the vertical bar, but keep that right side of the blade touching the top part of his ear. Don't want to go higher than that. Okay, so check this out. Here's another little better angle. Trying to catch myself doing bad angles, man. You gotta make sure I correct myself. But anyways, right here I do about another ½ inch, and then what I start doing is I start moving the lever all the way down, then halfway, then a little bit up, and then once I do all that, I'll come in back in with my no guard. So this is closed all the way with just one notch open. And all I'm doing is I'm erasing that little bottom black line. If you can tell right there how easily that just came out. This is in between the half and then well, I don't know how you guys would call it, but this is the lever all the way open and then the half guard. So in between that, I'm erasing everything with the lever all the way closed and then just one notch open. Right here, I'm using the number 1. Still, if you notice the bottom, as the right side of that blade is still touching the top part of his ear. Check this out. Bam, right there. It's still at an angle. I'm pretty much doing an arch now. So I started at an arch facing upward, and then I curve it towards the end when I get to the vertical bar. And then this is the 0.5 guard. So the 0.5 guard on the back on the FX3s kind of blends in from that 0.5 of the low pro onto the 1. So I kind of go back and forth with those. It's kind of hard, but you got to really catch your, I don't know, you really got to work on those like hardcore. The FX3s aren't that easy to blend with, so you got to use what you got to use. I'll probably do another video next with like some walls or something, because I know everybody uses walls. Probably be a lot easier. But check this out. Going back in with my number 1, closing everything down, make sure everything is nice and blended. Then come back in, lever all the way open, and then I'm just having the clipper tilted on its side is really going to help you touch a lot of that detail work. Notice how I'm only attacking the little black spots. And then on the half guard right here, I'm just going to be coming in, make sure I'm touching everything up again, make sure everything is nice and smooth, didn't miss anything. I think this is a lever all the way closed. Make sure everything is nice and solid. Either way, I'm going to come back in and touch it up with scissors. So this is the 1.5 guard. Notice how I'm just gliding the thing over the top. It doesn't really matter if it's too blended on top, because I'm going to go back in and blend everything out with scissors and thinning shears and blah, blah, blah. So what I'm doing is I'm creating another guideline, and notice how the right side of my clipper, the blade, is still touching about the top of his ear. Don't want to get too crazy on that part, because then you start pushing it back and then it look like a fade. So this is the number 1. I have it all the way open, and all I'm going to be doing is going right under that 1.5 Make sure everything is nice and blended. And make sure you use your corners too, guys. Your corners are like mandatory on this stuff, especially on the tapers. Check it out. I'm just going back in and going notch by notch, closing everything down, using the corners right there. And then right here, back again. This is halfway. And then I close it all the way and then open it back and forth. Make sure everything is nice and touched up. Coming in with my thinning shears, I'm using the big teeth on my comb. And this is what's going to help you blend into whatever length you have on top. It don't matter if it's an 8 on top, 5, 6, whatever it is you got on top. In his case, it's a 4. So we're just blending this into the 4. And this is how you're going to get that nice transition from the fade onto the top of the hair. You don't really got to be using every single guard. Honestly, the max guard I use is a 1.5 sometimes, maybe even the 2, but just the 1.5, because after the 1.5, all I do is just use thinning shears and scissors to blend everything out. But if you check that out, it came out nice and clean. I still got to go over it, but these trimmers aren't that zero gap, but this help a lot, so I can go a little bit higher on the little detail work on the bottom. You want to make sure you have your really zero gap trimmers and then your non-zero gap trimmers. And then right here, this is the 0.5 guard, and I'm going back in, touching up detail work. And then I'm gonna come in with my little teeth on the comb, and then I'm just gonna start blending in between the fade. Check that out. Not too high on this one, but once I switch over to the big teeth, then I go a little bit higher. Right here, I'm gonna start at about almost halfway on his head, just because he really likes his tapers high. It's still gonna look fresh. I'm gonna show you guys when it's done. But I'm gonna take everything out, make sure everything is nice and clean. I kind of use the middle of his ears back there, kind of as a reference point, so I don't get lost. You know, if anybody needs help with that, that's probably the best way to do it. Just go halfway above his ears, and then just start your guideline right there. Some people, if you start it halfway like this, it'll be too high, so you don't want to do that. I'm gonna come in with my half guard, with my not half guard, but just the lever all the way open. And I'm gonna create it's a pretty big guideline right here. Like I said, I go pretty high on his tapers, so this is really gonna blend everything out. I know you guys are thinking like, man, why don't I just give him a fade? But you'll see when it's done, it's gonna look just like a taper. So right here, I'm just going notch by notch. I think this is halfway, and all I'm gonna be doing is just working my way, all the way to the bottom. Make sure everything is nice and solid. This is just a rough draft. When you're blending through notches and you're going up and down, you're just creating rough drafts. The detail work's gonna come back in later in a little bit when you start using only the corners. So right now I'm just making sure everything is nice and even. So I'm going all the way open, all the way closed, and once I get all the way closed, I come in with my trimmers and I just use the corners. And what I'm doing using the corners right here, bro, is I'm just touching up the little tiny black spots you see there. See? Bam, bam, bam. So all I'm doing is just touching black little spots, and that's really gonna help you like erase that very bottom line and not create harsh lines. But notice how it transitions into the blend right there. See? Super nice and solid, super nice and clean. And then I turn it upside down sometimes, and that really takes out the balders with the trimmer. Then I go back over one more time to make sure everything is nice and solid. And then the detail work comes in right here. This is the lever all the way open. I'm making sure I'm not going too crazy high, but the clipper is tilted, right? So I'm using only the pretty much the 2 or 3 teeth on that corner. This is the number 1 guard, and I'm creating another pretty big guideline. You need to create a guideline big enough so you're able to blend in with the 0.5 guard. Doesn't matter what clipper you use, but as long as you blend in with the 0.5 guard, you'll be solid. So right here, I'm going pretty high, and then I'm gonna come in with my 0.5 and blend everything in between that. So I'll pretty much have it all the way open, and then I'll start working my way down, closing notch by notch until it's all the way closed. And once it's all the way closed, then I'm gonna come in with some detail work. And check this out. Let's see how I'm using only the corner of my guards, of my blade Unless I'm creating a line, unless I'm creating like a rough draft guideline, then I'll use a full blade. But pretty much right now, what I'm doing here is using detail work. Check that out. Looks pretty solid. Some people have some indent in the back of the head, so you kind of got to go a little higher on those little indents, because otherwise it'll stay really dark and shadowy there, and everything will be nice and blended except that part. It'll be too dark, so sometimes you just gotta go in and check this out. This is a lever all the way open already. I'm going a little bit higher just because I'm trying to hit that dark spot right there. And it's just the corners. Notice how I'm just using the corners. On some of the videos, you'll be able to tell when I'm like tilting the clipper more on its back. When you do that, you kind of take a little bit more hair off. But, you just got to kind of know what you're doing because you don't want to leave patches. So right here, I'm using the corner of my 0.5 guard, making sure I'm hitting that dark shadowy spot I was talking about, which is like right there. It's really hard to get in there sometimes, but the corners will help you a lot. So I think right here I'm using the one guard. Yeah, I just have it all the way open now. So I'm using the one guard all the way open, and then I'm just gonna blend in with the one guard open to closed, and probably come back in with some more detail work. Make sure everything is nice and blended on this. But you see, like I went pretty high and I'm still blending, and it doesn't look like it's it doesn't look like it's a big old high taper, even though it is, but it still looks good on his head structure. So this is the 1.5 all the way open, and I'm pretty much just creating. I'm going about half inch right here. I'm not going like a whole inch right here. I'm just going half inch, and I'm gonna start just blending all the way down into that one open. And then after that, what I'm pretty much gonna do is just hit it with some scissors, kind of blend all that out. And check that out. See that dark spot, bro? Like I was having a hard time on there, but whatever. We'll get it out. 1.5 guard right there. Working my way down. Make sure everything's nice and closed. And then we're gonna come in on the other side. I'm gonna speed this part up because I already showed you guys on the other side. I don't think you guys want to sit and watch the whole thing, but same thing. Start your guideline, erase everything out, ball everything out. Shave, brush, and let's go, baby. Look at that. Imagine I can do fades this fast. Oh my god, bro, I'd be so rich. We're like a millionaire already. So then I'm gonna come back in with number 2 guard. And I'm gonna just kind of blend everything in together, nice and solid. All these all this long hair that I missed. You don't want to leave too much of a bulkiness right there on the side behind the ears and stuff like that. So going with the number 2, touch everything up that you did with the 1.5. Because remember, all we went high with was with the 1.5. So I'm coming in with the 2 and making sure I'm connecting everything. It doesn't have to be too perfect. Just make sure you connect everything. This is the number 3. I'm just making sure I went over everything. And then this is where you're really going to start blending everything in, using your thinning shears. A lot of people just use the guards, but I feel like you can catch more detail work with just the thinning shears. So I came in with the thinning shears and I blended everything from the 1.5 to the 2 to the 3 up to the 4. And the transition there is super solid. See how that there's like a harsh dark spots right there where I'm attacking right now. That's all going to be blended out. A lot of the times too, you guys got to notice is that no matter how much times you guys blend, if the people have white hairs, if they're getting old, people are like a little bit older and they got a bunch of white hairs, it's kind of hard to blend in white hairs to black. So you got to kind of make the best out of it, take out some black spots and stuff. But see right there, look nice and blended. So I'm gonna come in with the trimmers that aren't super zero gapped, and I'm just gonna pretty much outline everything. Go right above the ear. Notice how I'm using the trimmers around the ear on the very top part. You don't want to cut kids like that. So if you go all the way down, you might slice them. So you gotta brush everything out. Do the same thing on the other side. Come in and use that the corner, just the little corners of your trimmer. Damn, that's actually looking really good. Anyways, brush it out. I'm gonna start the hairline right here. Just barely tap in there. His hairline is receding on the very top peak, so I kind of want to go a little higher on that, but not too much. Always leave everything nice and natural. I'm gonna throw some enhancements on here, some dye. This is semi-permanent dye. This stuff is really gonna make your haircuts pop. This stuff is really dope. I love using it when I have time. So what I'm gonna do is, this is the B level 3 or something like that. All I did was apply some just on the hairline, and then I use a specific brush I have just for this, and I'm just gonna brush everything into the hair. And then what this is gonna do is create that sort of darkness on the vertical bar, so it's gonna look super solid. If you're a barber and you cut your own hair, and you do this kind of hairstyle on yourself, just use Just for Men, bro. It'll stay on for like a whole week, whole like week and a half, like of just sharp hairline. So, but these clients come in all the time, so they don't really care. Um, my boy over here is gonna look super fresh. What I did right here is I sprayed some aftershave on the blade, and all I'm doing is lining everything up, making sure I'm pushing up all that dye into the hair, so it looks super sharp right here. Then I'm gonna come in. Excuse me. I'm gonna come in with my chalk, and what this does is it creates a transition from the skin color onto the hair. And to erase that out, you're just gonna use your trimmers, come back in and pull out onto the skin, not onto the hair. Check that out. And then the last step right here is gonna be just your razor, and then you're gonna push everything into the hairline. Make sure you don't push it back. You just keep it nice and natural. And look at that. Look how clean that looks. It just creates a little contrast between the skin and the hair color. Make sure you brush them off. Same thing on the other side. Add some of that good stuff. Brush it all in. Sometimes you might go a little too excess. Just use a towel to take some off. If you get some on his skin outside of the hairline, it doesn't matter. You're gonna brush everything in with your razor using your aftershave. The alcohol on it kind of erases it, so it's just pretty solid. It doesn't like stain the skin or anything. Come back in with my line, hit it with the trimmers, and then the last step is gonna be the razor. Make sure everything is nice and solid. Then I'm gonna start in the middle of his hairline and work my way to the left and then to the right. It's because I'm left-handed, bro. That's why I go left all the time. So whatever. Just gonna come in the middle to the other side. Make sure everything is nice and straight. Stand in front of him. Make sure I have him look down. And then it's gonna really clean everything up. Come in with the razor and clean everything up. And look how solid that's gonna look right now, bro. Dude, clean, bro. I hope you guys like this high skin taper. If you guys want to see any kind of different tapers, any kind of different haircuts, let me know. If you guys want to see me do videos on specific things, let me know. I enjoy doing this. So like, subscribe, and comment. It's so cringy. All right.